All right, everybody. Good morning, at least where I am in the world, which is Colorado, USA. Um, really happy to be with you again for another live stream with motion guidance. Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of applications for motion guidance in sport, specifically for golf. We're also going to take a look at some other applications and walk you through ideas of how you can start branching out from just using motion guidance in a clinic or a gym setting and start taking it out into the world a little bit, maybe to local facilities with more sport applications, maybe doing stuff, even things like golf courses, because the motion guidance system is easily portable. You can take it anywhere. It's going to have a nice carrying case for you to travel with. It's going to have everything that's included in there. And we're just going to be using either just the laser for these applications with a single belt and a single mount, or we're going to be using just maybe a drop target that also comes with the kit. So really excited for this interesting topic. There's so many golfers throughout the world. It's such a big sport. Involves rotation, involves doing the same thing as consistently as you can over and over, reducing motion, promoting motion. It kind of covers all the bases. And we're also going to talk about a few other products that are big on my radar right now that you can blend with the motion guidance system. What we're going to do is our typical. We're going to have a screen share, and I'll be going over some videos with you. We'll talk about those. We'll come back into the chat. Would love to hear any questions that you have, and I'll get those answered today. And then we will just kind of move along and see how far we get. All right. Let's just check the chat real quick. Looks like we're good so far. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And then we'll get over to some of these videos. All right, so let's take a look at this first video. So let me set this up first. So I'm actually in my garage doing some of this stuff. So excuse some of the audio, although I'll probably just walk through some of it and then let some of it play. But I'm going through some setup, and I'll describe this and then we'll get going. So I have the chest strap on just below my upper rib cage there. And if you see over toward the right side of the screen, which is actually my left arm, we have a flat mount with the laser over to the side of my rib cage. So that's going to be important for this to move it to the side so I can project forward down onto the ground. And on the white squares, you can see a little bit of the green laser there. But the laser, if it's placed in front, is not going to have the same projection straight down. So we want to slide that over to the side of the rib cage so we can project it down to the ground. So that's going to be the first thing with rotation that you want to take notice on. If you're trying to use the perpendicular mount in front, it likely won't be able to get the angle completely down onto the ground that is preferable for these types of activities. The second thing is I'm using the third size strap, so the large strap, to put on my torso. That's going to have that hygienic backing on it. It's going to stay in place even on my slick shirt that I have here on, and it's going to allow for me to move through these larger ranges of motion. Now, in my hands right now is a tool called the TrueTurn Pro. So this was developed by a man named Carl Horn. If you don't know about the TrueTurn Pro, I recommend that you get online and seek that out. This is a wonderful tool for promoting rotation and stability and simulating different rotational types of sports. So go check them out. We're a huge fan of theirs just by what they're bringing to the table, not necessarily by any sort of agreement. So go check out TrueTurn Pro. So I'm going to go through a rotation here. What the TrueTurn Pro allows me to do is lock in my torso rotation by extending my arms out onto that bar and getting the arms of that device into the anterior parts of my deltoids. So that's going to make my torso move as a unit with my shoulders, which is a major consideration when you're talking about trying to purify your rotation through the thoracic spine. So if your arms are extended and locked out, you're just going to get torso rotation. What tends to happen is if your arms are out and you're not locked out, like let's say I was just holding a golf club there instead of the TrueTurn Pro, then you're going to start moving your arms across your body into horizontal adduction or horizontal abduction, and you're going to get shoulder motion instead of torso motion. So this is why I like this device. So with the laser pointed down onto the ground here, and I'll just kind of mute this just for a second as we roll out. What you're going to see in my setup here is that I'm going to be able to go through a rotation with the true turn, and I can see that laser moving. And that's going to give me a distance measurement. It's going to give me immediate feedback on the plane of motion that I have. If I'm coming too sharply, I'm going to open up there. I'll see it with the laser as I open up away from the ball. If I get too shallow, I'll see that come across in my torso rotation, and the laser will come in closer to my foot. So it allows me to stay on plane through the whole motion and make sure that I'm on plane in the plane that I want. So applying the visual feedback behind the ball can be super effective for anyone from the novice learner all the way up through the expert learner to make sure they're doing the same thing each time with their golf swing. The setup is going to be the same as long as I don't move my arms around, as long as I don't move my feet around. The setup's going to be the same every time, and I can stay on plane with that motion. So reviewing the key points here are going to be that torso strap. It's going to be to the side of my rib cage, not in the front of my rib cage, and then looking at it to stay on plane every time I go through rotation. So if I do that a few times with a device like the True Turn Pro, then I can also get into the standard golf club and go through the same type of setup. So I'm still going to project it down. I'm going to have it more underneath me because I'm looking down toward the ball now. I can adjust the laser with the ball and socket joint pretty easily and put it behind my club. Try to get it off of my hand there. And then look for the on-plane motion again. So if I have that pointed down underneath my club and underneath my arms, I can stay on plane with my torso rotation as I go through my backswing. And that's going to reproduce the same thing that I was doing with the drill before, and I can look for it every time. If it's going to go shallow, I'll be able to see that closer to my foot. If I open up and go away, I'll be able to see that going onto the orange squares. I want to keep that in that first line of squares on my takeaway after I get into my approach. So I'm looking at mechanics. I'm looking at repeating the same thing every time as I'm addressing the ball and then taking that away. So, and then I can start going through full swings there. I can finish off with the laser in front of me on a wall so I can get full turn there and have a nice high finish. So the laser really allows for segmenting down the individual portions of the swing, and then also going through large combined segments of the full swing moving forward. So I'm going to now move on to putting that down on my torso. So you'll see the torso will allow for down onto my hips, onto my pelvis. So if I project this out again and I have it to the side, this can allow me to understand a weight shift. So this can be super important for generating power, for making sure I'm not going to be driving my hands over the top of the ball too quickly, getting my weight onto that back leg. I can project the laser onto the orange squares to start with, and then make sure I get an adequate weight shift every time, having that laser come back toward the ball. Then I can go through my full swing phase on that. So that can be a nice TikTok drill. Not the social media platform, but TikTok with the weight shift to get that laser to come back toward the ball, and then make sure I'm weight shifting again through during my contact phase and finishing nice and tall. So that can be the opposite of another application that we can use with the motion guidance device during golf. So then I can, of course, apply that with the True Turn Pro or anything like that. I'm going to move the laser down next to my knee. Now, this is an important aspect as well, especially for any rotational sport. So we're using it for golf in this case, but for proper mechanics with hitting a ball with baseball, maybe even throwing mechanics for throwing a football, with swinging a bat, anything like that. Lacrosse, the applications are endless. But getting that appropriate knee drive coming in as I'm working down into the contact phase of my swing the motion guidance device applied at the knee can dramatically help me with understanding as I'm coming through, my body working together as a unit to generate power. I get an adequate weight shift, and then I drive that knee down toward the ball. This is going to help get me into my largest power for contact, should help increase my swing and club head speed going through that. And I can do that repetitively with the other device, or then come back and use it just with my regular club. So what I like about this application is just, again, the repeatability of being able to do the same thing over and over. I can see it, and if I can see it and I can feel it repetitively, then I'm going to start to develop this this memory for what that should feel like, and the drill turns into something permanent over time during my swing by reinforcing that. All right, so that can be a really great application for motion guidance at the knee. Now, if I move on from here, I can put it on my arm. Okay. This individual video will be posted up on our social media feeds also. You can find it on our Vimeo page, things like that. So you can go back to this. And of course, this whole live cast will be posted as well. But if I have that on my arm, maybe I'm interested in what my swing mechanics look like from what my arm is doing on top of my torso. So if I project that down onto the ground, let's see here, go back a little bit. So if I have that projected down, here we go. I can see if my arm is starting to move away from my torso a little bit too early with that. I can make sure that the club is coming back at the same plane as my right arm there. So I'm keeping that left arm straight initially, and then as I go through my regular swing phase, bringing that back to load that club to start the contact phase down into the ball. I can make sure that that mechanic is happening for me. Yeah, great. So an early 1-to-1 there, and then making sure my arm doesn't drift away from the torso is another application that you can use on the arm. So I'm using that smaller strap in the clinician kit, and I'm still using that flat mount with this particular application. All right, so let's pause that, and we can get rid of that thing. So furthering some more applications with what we've just talked about, this is another video, and again, I'm using the TrueTurn Pro in the clinic. But I've set up this resistive band with the TrueTurn Pro. And as you can see, the laser is down into my knee, so I'm working on that leg drive, but I'm getting some resistance to see what that feels like down into the contact phase of that rotational sport that we're working on here with golf. So I'm setting that up, getting my contact phase of that swing and getting that knee drive to become sequential and move together. With that. So that can be a nice application. And of course, we can put that down after we go through drills and then work on the same thing with the club. So getting those hands and that knee to come down together. Or if you notice that your particular client is maybe doing that too quickly, you can, of course, delay that laser with that timing and make sure they're not moving too quickly with the lower body or with the hands. Okay. By using the timing of the laser there as a drill. If we move on to this next video. All right, so now I've put that laser up on my head. Now, of course, a lot of people have seen the attempts at lasers on like ball caps and things like that in the past. This can have the same type of application, but we're trying to limit the amount of motion from my head as I'm going through a standard putt. So if the laser is following the club, we're likely not getting a still head, okay, during the putting stroke. So if we want to kind of quiet that down a little bit, I can get that laser behind a ball. I can make sure that as I go through that putting stroke, it's not going to move. And this gives me all the small detail about how much I'm moving there. So if I want to say, nope, I got to really minimize that, or maybe I'm having a hard time minimizing that head movement, I can bring our drop target out and put that laser on the bullseye. If I bullseye that laser, I can get a distance measurement about how far I'm really moving that laser during my putting stroke. So I'm going to try not to have that move off the yellow in this case, and just go through that as a drill by applying it to my head. So kind of an oldie but a goodie. Really try to drive home those early mechanics, especially under stress. I've taken this out onto the golf course and said, hey, this is going to be a big putt. When I'm just in a practice round. I want my putt to stay, my putting mechanics to stay the same during this phase. So I'm going to bring some visual feedback out. So if I'm under a little bit more stress, there's a longer putt. I'm focused on a lot of things, but I want to make sure I'm not moving that head. This is a great way to do it. Okay, and this will just fit in your bag. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. So let's get rid of that one. And I got one more for you here. So if we look at this application, we're going to switch over to baseball. So another rotational sport that needs to generate power. So there's going to be some similarities with some of these mechanics as far as the ones that we just talked about with golf and crossing over. But this is a local gym in my community, and they're using the motion guidance device for using a more of a still head and a quiet eye type of approach to get ready for a pitch if you're in the batter's box. So the attempt here is to get rid of unnecessary movement and unwanted movement, and trying to keep the mechanics the same during the swing. You're still going to read the pitch. You're still going to look for cues from the pitcher and from the ball itself, but you're trying to minimize the amount of motion that's coming out of that head neck area by projecting the laser over onto the drop target here that's hanging on the batting cage. So you'll see that laser projected out here, and you got Jack here, and this is his setup. So he's going through his ready phase of getting ready for that pitch. So he's got the large strap pulled all the way tight around his melon here. He's got the perpendicular mount over to the side and the laser projected out there. Now the distance can vary with this. Obviously, the closer you are to the target, the less excursion that small movement will have on movement of the laser. But we want that to be progressed. So if you have a person that's projecting out with the laser from a close distance, and they're doing this really well, you back them up, and smaller movements will show up as larger laser motion. So he's going through his ready phase here. He's got his weight shift back onto his right hip. He's getting ready to move this front leg so he can determine if he wants to go ahead and take a swing at this upcoming pitch. And he's minimizing his head movement by having the laser projected out there. So he's just focused there, and he's going to step forward, but he's keeping his weight shift back, but he's really trying to get a quiet head. He's just projecting that forward as he's going through this other drill, so he's not getting excessive head movement or unwanted head movement here. Okay, and he's kind of talking through. This one's also on our Instagram feed if you guys want to check that one out. And check out Lions Performance there as what they're doing in Castle Rock. They're doing some great things, so I'd follow them up with what they're doing. All right. So let's take out of that, and let's go back to stop sharing here and go back to our typical feed. All right, great. So that kind of finishes what I wanted to show you with the applications for using motion guidance for golf, using it for rotational types of sports, and just some different placements on the body depending on what you're looking for. So if you're a coach or you're a skilled practitioner, if you want to use these things for different rotational sports and you're struggling for applications, go ahead and contact us at info@motionguidance.com, and we can discuss those things. If you are a novice trying to just get better at your sport, hit us up with that stuff too. We want to see if we're able to accelerate your learning curve with your performance. So that does it for today. Thank you for joining us, and check us out at motionguidance.com, and look for our upcoming dates at new topics. Have a great day.